Hey guys, just wanted to give you a little walk around here of the 2001 Honda 750 Ace bobber build that me and a buddy worked on. So we took a stock 2001 Honda 750 Ace and had the big long sweeping fender in the back and the big front fender and the big wide tank, and we decided to do a little bit of a budget build and try to make ourselves a bobber. So what we did, now let's see here, where's a good place to start? Probably the most noticeable is the fender's cut down quite a bit, and all we did for that was, this is actually the factory fender. The original factory fender came all the way down. We ended up cutting it all off, reshaping it, and then to lower it down onto the tire, what we did was, I'll lift up the seat here, we'll try to get my shadow out of the way. So we put these spacers in, so you can see where the factory fender used to bolt right up to the factory mounts there. We just put some spacers in using some copper pipe. And then what we had to do back here was the factory frame came back a little bit farther and kind of rounded off a little bit silly, and then had that chrome piece that came on to support the fender. We actually ended up just cutting that factory frame right here and then kind of refabbing it up and painting it so it looks a little more like finished. And then it was just as simple as making this mount and welding it in, so everything bolts right into the factory holes. Just that's where the fender used to bolt on anyways. So we had to make a little plate. We it's hard to see, it's a little dirty, I've been riding it, but we hand hammered that plate and then just put a little decorative kind of coin in there in the washer. For the side covers, those were aftermarket side covers. The bike originally has those black plastic ones on here. We went ahead and found these metal ones that were chrome, ended up sanding all the chrome down, painting those as well. Took off the chain guard, and then obviously when we did the fender, we lost the license plate holder and everything, so we put that down here. Had to remove that. This cover here we got was chrome. We painted this all in here. Everything else we just left chrome. I'm not going to be able to get rid of all of it, so we'll just leave it. Doesn't look terrible. This gas tank is off of a Yamaha. I believe like a mid-70s Yamaha. So we had to do a little modification to it. Obviously the fill or the gas line off of the factory tank wouldn't fit in there, so we kind of modified one out of some pipe, which looks kind of cool, makes it look rustic, which we were kind of going for anyways. Up here, the tank mounts right in the factory mount on the rear, just like it's supposed to. However, in the front, I'll come around here. The factory tank used to mount down here on those rubber pegs, and I still want to cut those off because they kind of drive me nuts that they're sitting there. This one here, we couldn't get to sit down because it's a little bit narrower tank, and so the air breather and everything in the air box that used to be on it was in the way. So we actually put a pipe across it and then found this, I don't know what it was, off an old milk tank or something. It's just a cool, big, kind of beefy screw there, threaded rod. So we used that, so it's kind of cool. You take that and unthread it. And then actually, it's not as noticeable, or it's not terribly noticeable in the front, but it's hollow there, which is kind of cool. I shove my hat in there all the time. Works just fine. When it comes to the air, so the factory tanks have a air box that sits kind of way up inside the tank, and they're a pain to get around. I watched another guy on YouTube. You can probably find the video that I found. I think you just got to search like Honda Shadow Air Pods and you'll find the video on these. So that guy did it, so I decided to try it. What you do is you take the factory air box, and it has two hoses that run off the back. Basically cut those hoses off, and then you take PVC pipe, I believe it's like 1.5 inches outside diameter. You slide that inside that rubber hose, that the factory rubber hose, and then put a clamp on it, and then leave about, you know, 1 inch or so sticking out here. That gives you something to put these pods on. It works good. You do have to get this one here. Everybody always asks when they see it, they're like, what's that third one for? And this is just your crankcase breather. You can buy this whole little kit online, I think for like 13 bucks on Amazon. And actually I just bolted it right down onto one of the holes where the factory airbox used to bolt on, so it kind of helps to fill in that gap a little bit. I did have to extend the hose. The factory hose only goes about 3-4 inches back here. I had to run a longer hose down and around. One thing I'll tell you, when you do these air pods, is you're going to have to rejet it. And everywhere that you look, they're going to tell you to go big. The one company had me wanting to put like 135 and 135 and 140 main jets in it. So I went with what they said, and I was running super rich. So then I ended up actually bringing it back down. And what I ended up finding, if anybody has any problems, I'll save you taking the carb apart 50 times. All you have to do to get this thing to run good is take your main jet and run your front at a, let me remember here. The front's a 115 or one, is it 115? Yeah, hold on a second. 115 and 110, I believe. Or is it one? Nope, all the way around. 110, 115. The back one's the bigger one. So 110, 115 for your main jet. Then your pilot jet, a 45. And then take your needle and shim it with 2 shims. And that's finally what I came up with to get her to run good so she doesn't smoke. It's not running too lean. It's not popping and backfiring. Which I guess popping and backfiring brings me to the exhaust. So the exhaust here is all factory. We just literally redid it for about 22 bucks. So what we did is the factory exhaust ran down, and obviously it had those heat shield covers that went on here, those little chrome ones. And then right back here where this 2 comes in, there's a little strip that kind of holds them together from the factory that's welded on the back, and then that big can comes on here with that support along the back. All you do is where those 2 pipes come down, if you look on the back side of the exhaust, you'll see that little metal flange or that strip that comes down. Cut that pipe straight off, and then you go and buy 2 of these just the exhaust tips, you know, the screw-on ones that go on the end of your exhaust pipe if you want to make it look cool. Anyways, we welded those on, and then obviously where it welds and everything, you're not gonna be able to get it chrome, and I didn't want it chrome anyways, but didn't want to paint it, so we wrapped it with black heat wrap. If you do use the heat wrap, the colored stuff, make sure you put silicone on it, black high temp silicone or whatever color you want. Definitely silicone them. And then a lot of people ask too, can you put it on wet? Can you put it on dry? I actually did these dry because I didn't want to have to wait for it to dry. If you take your time, you can do them dry. You don't have to wet the wrap. Anywho, what else do we got here? The ape hangers. I know I had to do a lot of research on that. A lot of people were asking questions on how big can you go without having to extend your throttle linkage and your cables and everything. These are 10-inch mini apes, and I had plenty of room to run the cables with the factory setup. I don't think I would have got it with a 12-inch, so just keep that in mind. If you go 10-inch, you can probably sneak them on. If you go any bigger, you're probably gonna have to start extending cables. The other thing I did real quick is, so the factory bike, for those of you that know, I'll try to see if I can attach some pictures at the end of this if I can figure it out. Has the speedometer and everything right here. Obviously I lost that when I moved and put a different tank on. So I found a bike. So in 2000, this is a 2001, in 2000 Honda Shadow, the 750 Ace had a front mounted speedometer right up in here that had all your lights and everything. The only problem is in 2000, the speedometer was ran from a cable. So it's not electronic. This one's electronic from the front tire. The other one had an actual thread in, you know, the old school cables that spin that went down to the front. So when I got this, it wouldn't fit up with that tire. Obviously, I could have changed it out and put the whole assembly from the front of the other bike into it. What I did that was a lot easier was I just pulled the old Speedo out, took the Speedo out of the original bike that had the original odometer and everything in it, pulled it out. It doesn't bolt in here, but it fits in here. And so what I did was use silicone and actually ran some silicone around the new speedometer, put it in. And then for my button to reset my trip, I just drilled a small hole, you can see, and then set it in right here. So I can still have my reset button. I did lose a few lights doing it that way. Like I lost my kickstand light and I lost my temp light, which I don't care about because it's liquid cooled and I ain't gonna have an issue with that anyways, and who cares about the kickstand. The front headlight, that's all the original headlight. We just taped it and painted it. How we did the paint was sanded everything down. We went a primer, like a dark primer red that you can kind of see that's on there, and painted everything real heavy with a couple coats of that. Then we went a couple coats of black and then finished it off with this cream. And then all we did was wet sand through and just kept wet sanding through until we ended up getting the look that we wanted without going too far. So it looks kind of aged. And then after it was all said and done, we did a matte gloss on it, or a matte gloss, geez. We did a matte clear on it. And then obviously we just waxed it after that, so you can see it's got a little sheen to it, but it ain't terrible. But I did the whole bike for about, geez, I think it was $300 with everything, including the wrap, the bars. The bars were $40. The pipes, like I said, I don't have anything but just time into those. The other thing I should tell you with the pipes, if you do decide to do what I did, there's a bracket back here. This little bracket here, this actually used to be turned straight, and it ran a long bar all the way back that supported it. If you cut that off and then bend it, and like I said, there's that plate on the back here, bend that in and weld it onto that plate, and then it gives you a factory mount basically. So this exhaust is mounted here and up there. You're not just hanging, you know, everybody just cuts it off and lets it hang off the motor, which I guess you can do. But anywho, that's the bike project. She runs good. I suppose I could, it's cold. I haven't started it today, but see if she'll pop off. There we go. And there you have her. A lot of fun to ride. Well, I don't know if anybody else is going to be doing one of these projects, but if you are, hopefully this helps you out some, saves you a little time and money. Alrighty, catch you later.